Hola! Today we're going to be working on something that's a little bit different. This is stem changing verbs. So they share traits with regular AR, ER, and IR verbs, but they also have something that's a little bit different. So let's take a look at the different types of stem changing verbs that we're going to see throughout this pod and throughout the rest of the year.
Pull up on there who you would change, because you said it'll be about 10 kids.
Okay,
Composition.
So, first thing to remember is what each one of our subject pronouns is. You've got yo, I, tú, you, he, she, and you formal. We've got nosotros is we, vosotros is all of you, and then ellos, ellas, and ustedes, they, and all of you formal.
That's the two you can have.
So, when you look at a verb, every verb has two parts. What we have been concentrating with for the most part is the ending of the verb. That's the AR, ER, or IR portion. However, there's a second part of the verb, which is the stem, anything that comes before the AR, ER, and IR. My examples at the bottom of the screen are empezar has EMPEZ as the stem, and AR as the ending. Entender, ENTEND is the stem, and ER is the ending. And preferir, PREFER as the stem, and IR as the ending. What we're going to do with a stem changing verb is to break that verb in half, and we're going to be working with first the ending, and then second the stem. So, just like we've been doing with AR, ER, and IR verbs, we still want to use the appropriate endings. So, for AR ending verbs, the yo form has an O, the to form an AS. The el, ella, usted form an A. Nosotros has an AMOS. Vosotros has an AIS. And ellos, ustedes has an AN ending. For ER verbs, these endings are O, es, e, emos, eis, and N. And for IR verbs, you've got O, es, e, emos, is, and ens. So a verb is called a stem changing verb simply because it undergoes a spelling change in its stem, or the part that remains when you take off the ending. In addition, recall that a stem changing verb does not make the stem change in the nosotros or vosotros form. So when you change a stem, don't worry about changing the stem of nosotros or vosotros. Sometimes stem changing verbs are referred to as boot verbs. This is because when you look at the conjugation charts for these verbs, the forms that change are included and create a boot formation, or a boot shape. Here are a few examples of stem changing verbs. These are ones in which an E in the stem becomes an IE. Simply slide an I in front of the E in the stem. Empezar, to begin. Cerrar, to close. Entender, to understand. Querer, to want. Perder, to lose. Tener, to have. And venir, to come. To conjugate a stem-changing verb, first change the ending, based on whether it's an AR, ER, or IR verb, and second change the stem, or the beginning part of the verb. Here's an example. With the verb cerrar, to close, you've changed the endings to O, cierro, for I close, the yo form. Cierras, the to form, you close. Cierra, he or she or you formal closes. Cerramos, nosotros form, we form. Cerráis, the vosotros form. And then cierran, the ellos, ustedes form. So what I mean by the boot shape is that all the people going down the left side of the column change, and the person to the bottom right changes. If you look at that shape, that's the shape of a boot. The two forms that do not change, do not put an E in, or an I in the beginning, for the nosotros form, cerramos, and the vosotros form, cerráis. That's one type of stem changing verb. Another type is the O to UE stem changing verb. So that's where the O in the stem of the verb will change to a UE. Here are a few examples where this happens. Poder, to be able to, or when somebody says they can do something. Probar, to try or try on, like clothing. Costar, to cost. Contar, to count or tell. morir, to die, dormir, to sleep, mostrar, to show, and aprobar, to approve. These are just a few examples, but there are many, many other stem-changing verbs that go through these same changes as the verbs we're going to be looking at. So, just like with the E to IE stem-changing verbs, first you'll change your ending, the AR, ER, or IR, to match who's doing the action, and then second you change the beginning portion of the verb, or the stem. So here's an example of an O to UE stem-changing verb. This is the verb to count, and it can also mean to tell, depending on the context of the sentence that you use it in. So the yo form has an O ending, but notice that the O in the beginning of the sentence changes to a UE. So I tell or I count is cuento. In the to form, our ending remains the same as any other AR verb ending in the to form, has an AS ending, but that O changed to a UE in the beginning. You tell or you count is cuentas. He or she counts or tells, cuenta. Notice that we count does not change the O, it's contamos. The vosotros, or all of you form, also doesn't change, contáis. But back down to our last group, the ellos, ustedes form, they or all of you tell, cuentan, changes the O to a UE yet again. Again, these are called stem changing and boot verbs because if you were to draw down the left side, all three of those verbs get the stem change in the beginning, and then the verb in the bottom right also gets the stem change. If you were to trace the shape, that's a boot. So we're going to look closely at tener and venir in another one of your grammar lessons. But for now, this is a lot of information. Take a look at your notes, take a look at the resources that I've provided, and also take a look at the tutorials in your textbook. If you have questions, always ask me if you need clarification.